Quem é Besouro Suco?
Nunca diga esse nome, ouviu?
Besouro Suco.
Eu tô falando muito sério. Se disser o nome dele 3 vezes, coisas ruins vão acontecer.
Tipo o quê?
Besouro Suco.
Besouro Suco!
Besouro Suco!
O suco tá soltinho.
Em 5 de setembro,
Vambora com isso?
a espera
Partiu, novinha.
acabou.
Queremos agradecer a presença de todos nessa ocasião especial. Eu senti bem aqui.
Eca.
Pré-venda dia 23 de agosto. Verifique a classificação indicativa.
Well, here we go. Deck 78.
Welcome to Deck 78. I'm Mark A. Altman, and I got a table over here in the corner with Darren Doctorman and Ashley Miller. And today's special guest, hello. We're joined by the award-winning producer of some legendary Blu-ray and DVD 4Ks, Blade Runner, Alien, Gods and Monsters, not Gods and Monsters. What is
wrong with you? What?
He's the director of the movie Crave, which won a number of awards and beloved by people the world over. And he, of course, is Charlie de Lauzirika. Welcome, Charlie.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm surprised you didn't mention Twin Peaks because I know you love Twin Peaks. So
I do love Twin Peaks, and that is a great set. But I neglected to mention it. I'm glad you did.
But you went to Gods and Monsters for some reason.
Gods and Monsters.
Whatever the hell that is.
You didn't even do. What was it? Exodus of. What was the Ridley Scott movie? Gods and Kings. Yes,
yeah.
Kings.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
My
Sometimes
king.
kings can be monsters.
Yeah, thanks. That's good. But you've dominated that space for many years, and one of the great DVD, Blu-ray, 4K. Well, it's not 4K yet, but sets of all time is, of course, your stellar Alien quadrilogy, or the Alien cycle, as it was called. And
it wasn't actually, but thank you.
What was it called? I called it the Alien cycle.
It was the Alien quadrilogy. Then it became the Alien anthology because quadrilogy isn't a real word. So there you go. It'll be cycle next time.
If you could have called it anything, what would you have called it?
Oh, I suggested anthology because I found out about quadrilogy along with everyone else. Like they just announced it, and I had no heads up on quadrilogy, so that took me a moment to recalibrate my enthusiasm for the project. And then, but then for the Blu-ray, I said, "Can we make it anthology?" And they're like, "Yeah, no problem." So
I love that set, but I love the Blade Runner quadrilogy even more.
The alien cycle is a device at the gym that you really don't want to go on.
No,
that's right. It's an abandoned Peloton experiment.
Oh my gosh! Well, we've wanted to talk about the Alien movies for a long time on this show, and obviously, there's probably no person in the universe more well versed in the history of that franchise than you, Charlie. And I want to talk about, obviously, because a lot of what we talk about on these shows are nostalgia. When was the first time that you saw or were exposed to the original Alien in 1979 Alien?
I have, believe it or not, I have vivid memories of the first screening of it because I knew it was about to come out, but I didn't. Obviously, I was a kid. I was like 10 or 11 when they announced Alien, so I wasn't really that focused on the making of it like we are now today, where we track movies well before they start shooting. But I do remember seeing the trailer, which was horrifying. That just terrifying trailer with that crazy alien alarm sound that goes throughout the whole thing. I remember the poster with the egg, but my parents had a very kind of acrimonious divorce, a really ugly divorce. But
who's
like
didn't?
A few years after that, what's that?
Who's
What'd you
didn't?
say?
I said, who's didn't?
but this one plays into Alien. So they were not the best of friends, but they conspired to get me to see Alien because they knew I really wanted to see it because I was still in the post Star Wars honeymoon phase with all science fiction, all horror, and all kind of genre of filmmaking. So my dad went to go see it at the very first show on May 25th, 1979, and he saw it at the Egyptian Theater in Hollywood, and then he called my mom after it was done and basically said it's okay for him to watch it except for the scene when the guy starts choking. So I took that as okay, I get to see it. So my mom took me that night, opening night at the Egyptian, and that didn't even account for the face hugger coming out of the egg, which was the whole audience. I remember being just hyperventilating when Kane was kind of like walking up the egg. And basically, people are saying out loud, "Don't go in there, don't do it, no," and he did it anyway. But
we should have said this episode has spoilers.
If you haven't seen Alien, pause the episode and watch it now.
Look, if you haven't seen Alien, you shouldn't be here.
No,
that's for sure. I think there is a statute of limitations on,
or even a statute.
There's a statue and a statue.
There's a statue of limitations
on spoilers for movies from 1979. Speaking of movies from I gotta say from 1980, this vexed me. So on the social media for Inglourious Treksperts, there was a little funny meme about Raiders of the Lost Ark would have been it's a huge problem that. Basically, it wouldn't have made a difference if Indiana Jones hadn't done anything in that movie because the end the Nazis would all. So anyway, little laugh. I saw it. I laughed. I thought it was amusing. Completely not true, but it was funny. But I cannot tell you the response that people are so irate and writing college theses on why that is not true. And it's like, oh my God, it's some dumb little meme. It's like, I glossed over in about a second.
To be fair, you didn't frame it in the sense of it being a dumb little meme. You put it up as being true.
Oh, no. I thought it was a dumb little meme. And it's like, and then people are like, oh my God. And then writing like college term papers about why that wasn't true. And it's like, of course not. Raiders of the Lost Ark is one of the greatest movies of all time. And it's like, I don't understand why people would waste their time trying to, who cares? Who cares?
I knew that it was that you clearly don't believe that that's true. I responded to it personally because I felt like everybody was really missing the point of that. And by the way, I've had people say that like in conversation, like they've brought up that whole thing. Yeah. And mean it. And I'm just, you're insane. You don't know what a movie is, do you?
It's from the stupid Big Bang Theory episode where they talk about that, and again, anyone who watches Big Bang
you repeat yourself.
But I just want to point out that Charlie did not work on the Indiana Jones quadrilogy box set because
or the cycle, or the cycle,
the Indy cycle. My favorite. My favorite recent Raiders meme, I guess it's a meme. It's been around for a while, but it caught my attention this week. Was if you pay attention to the height of the staff, like the head piece of staff or whatever, that Indy is actually 4 feet tall,
right?
Because it's 6 kadam height, which is 72 inches. But wait, take back 1 kadam, so suddenly the stick is 5 feet tall. And if you look at the scene. The headpiece is way above Indy's head. It's like at least a full foot above Indy's head. So Indy's only 4 feet tall.
Well, maybe we should write a term paper about that. I mean, I just crazy. It's like, okay.
Starring Peter Dinklage as Indiana Jones.
Yes.
What amazed me though is all the people were saying how much they love Last Crusade is a better movie than Raiders. It's like, oh my God.
Who says that?
Some people were saying, and
can you kick him off the group? I want their names.
I mean, who would say that? I mean, Raiders is like a cinematic classic. Last Crusade is nothing.
A movie.
It's nothing.
You know who would say that? Sean Connery.
Yeah. Okay. Well, when we do our Temple of Doom episode, I'm really excited about that one.
It's the best of the four.
So. You saw Alien, and what I mean, obviously, this is a movie now that for many years has been in your life. What was your feeling? After you sort of, I would use the word digested it, but that's probably not the best word to use.
Tell us only.
Or is the perfect word to use.
Tell us only the good things about Alien, maybe.
About your mother. About mother.
I'll tell you about Alien. Wait, what was the question?
Sort of, this has been a movie now that's been in your life for a long time, and sort of what was your response then? Maybe how your opinion of the movie evolved over time and learned to appreciate it in new ways.
It's funny because my love and fascination of Alien has pretty much stayed the same since I first saw it. Because even when I was a kid, I was focused on the tiny little details, like the little almost like fetishistic design choices in the film that like on the keyboards, like kind of like the glyphs and the icons and things that make no sense to us, but it makes sense to them in the future.
Yeah. Right.
And I love that the film just treats itself almost like a documentary in terms of how it captures the reality of the situation. Photographically, it's gorgeous. Photographically, it's shot like any Ridley Scott film. It's beautiful and everything. But the energy of it, the editing of it, just the moment to moment of it feels like it's an artifact from the future that has come back to us. And it just feels like so truly real to me in every facet of, like, you know, the pinup magazine, you know, girly pictures on the wall of the Nostromo, and like the cans of beer, and like every tiny little detail of set design and set decor. It's just so, it tells a story. And on top of that, then you have these blue collar characters that all they want to get paid. They want to do as little work as they have to. They want to get out of the job that they're in. They just want to get home. And I think we can all relate to that in many ways. And so it was fun to like see these kind of ordinary people, not, you know, space cadets and, you know, rocket people or whatever. It's like, these are real people, like the truckers, they're space truckers. And I just enjoyed that aspect of it.
I always felt like...
Go ahead, Ash.
Sorry, it's okay. No, I was going to say, it's that, you know, I've always loved about that movie is that it feels like these guys wake up thinking they're in a space trucker movie, and then suddenly they find themselves in a completely different movie that none of them signed on for. But the space trucker movie probably would have been pretty good too. All they needed was like an orangutan, and it would have been perfect.
Yeah.
I don't know. I saw Stuart Gordon Space Truckers.
if they had
and
just
Every
been
Which Way But Loose.
If they had just been space truckers and no alien, then Ash would have been really disappointed. Like, Ash would have been such a bitter, miserable person because he had nothing to do.
What movie's been ripped off more? Has it been more Halloween or Alien? Has it spawned more rip-offs and imitators?
That's a great question. I feel like it's probably Halloween just because it's so much cheaper to make a Halloween knockoff. But Alien, after it came out, I feel like, you know, Roger Corman and a lot of Italian filmmakers and people all over the world were making, you know, space horror movies with a monster, you know, in the corridors and everything. So I feel like immediately after Alien, I think Alien definitely hoarded the rip-off zone, but overall probably Halloween.
Do you have a favorite rip-off, a favorite Alien rip-off?
Oh, wow. No. Aliens.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say too. Aliens is a textbook Alien ripoff.
Wait, Darren, when did you first see Alien?
The funny thing is that I saw Alien probably about a year after it came out, because I didn't see it in the theater at first because, again, I was too young, and my parents would never. They weren't going through a divorce, so they didn't want to butter me up at all. So I didn't get to see it, but the first time I saw it was on a pay service called On TV, which was a sort of a pay-per-view movie distribution system. And my friend was going to get it, and he invited me over, and we watched it in his basement on a tiny little black and white TV. And this is completely not the environment for watching Alien, but it still scared the crap out of me. And that's kind of the surprise that I had, in that it doesn't need to be all enveloping to be effective. Now, I had previously to this, I had gotten the comic book version.
Yeah, the illustrated story.
The illustrated story, which was amazingly drawn and scary and detailed and pretty much nightmarish in its pages. And I'd also seen the book of Alien that had pictures from it, and so I already had a clear sort of image of the alien itself and the world that it was in my mind. Yeah. So just seeing it real, even on a 19-inch black and white TV, was still effective for me.
That's how I experienced Alien. My parents wouldn't let me see it because it was rated R. So, so I read the illustrated story, which I loved, which I thought was fantastic. I didn't see Alien for many years, although I do remember, this is so funny, the things you remember, sitting on an Amtrak train in Grand Central Station, getting ready to leave for camp. And I had the Starlog with the Ron Cobb cover of the Alien cover. And I just devoured it. I'm like, this movie looks so freaking good. I gotta see this movie. I don't care what it takes. I'm gonna sneak out of camp and go see it.
Oh my goodness.
I gotta see this movie. And I didn't see it for many, many years. And then, it totally lived up to the hype. What about you, Ashley?
I actually saw Aliens before I saw Alien.
That's fucked up.
Well, I know it is, but we had that whole conversation on 430 about movies we're thankful for, and one of them that I picked was RoboCop because it got me over my fear of intense violence. Like once you see RoboCop, like nothing freaks you out anymore. And I was always terrified of the trailer for Alien. That and we talked about It's Alive. It's just, there's something about that image of the egg, right? It's so that marketing campaign was just so simple, so elemental, and so perfectly effective. It's like there's so many lessons to be learned from it, and it scared me into not watching the movie. Once I saw Aliens, and once I'd seen RoboCop, and I was deadened to the horror of human suffering, I worked up I worked up the courage to sit down and watch Alien. And obviously like I loved it. It was revelatory. And it's and look, there is nothing that can really prepare you, even if you've seen Aliens first. There is nothing that can prepare you for that dinner scene. Even if you've seen Spaceballs, there's nothing that can prepare you for that dinner scene.
It's funny. There's nothing that can prepare you for it, even if you've seen Alien.
Yeah. Every time you see it.
Yeah.
It works every time.
Yeah. I had a very similar experience to you, Ashley, but with Dawn of the Dead and Night of the Living Dead. I saw Dawn of the Dead first because seeing Night of the Living Dead on TV, capturing glimpses of it in black and white really seemed super scary to me. I just could not watch it. But then I saw Dawn of the Dead because I was just fascinated by zombies when I was a kid. So I watched that first. Then I watched Night. And had a similar reaction of like, I totally get why it's considered a masterpiece and the artistry of it and all that. So, similar.
Do you think that movie could get greenlit today? Alien, not a franchise, haunted house in space. Obviously, it was an inconsequential budget at the time.
Does Ridley still want to make it?
Well, I was going to say also, let's just say a director who's done a small movie, because at the time he'd only done The Duelists and had done a ton of commercials. So could a commercial director who'd done like one little movie for A24, end up with doing we should ask Asbell this, but end up at a studio doing a movie like Alien today?
But then are you also erasing from existence like all the other Alien knockoff movies, everything Alien left in its wake? Because that's part of it.
I think it was like just let's assume something really original that Alien hadn't been done. Let's say we're in a alternate universe where Alien hadn't been done. Something happened with the Enterprise and metagenic phrasing and I don't know. When they went back in time, they messed it all up. Ridley Scott was never born. Dan O'Bannon was never born.
In that world, with that script, I think, that executives who would read that script would go, wow, this is something new and different that we haven't seen before. It's a very particular voice. It's a very particular take. And I think that they would go shopping for a director. Now, whether or not they said yes or not, I don't think it would be an issue even with hiring somebody like Ridley. I think they'd probably go with somebody like Ridley because they figured, hey, he's pretty talented. He can shoot and he'll be cheap.
Hey, give him a hand. He's British.
That's right. Where they would be a pain in the ass and probably destroy the movie would be with casting. Like it would be Jennifer Lawrence up one side and down the other is Ellen Ripley. And you would know from the beginning that...
wouldn't be a bad idea. But
no, probably not.
Do
But,
go on.
Right. It's you would. I don't think you would. I don't know if you would end up with as pure a product. Now, if you were at 20th today, as it exists with Steve, I mean, we know Steve. I do believe that that Steve Asbell would in fact like champion the great version of that movie.
Look, he championed Prey, so absolutely.
Exactly.
But let's take Steve out of the equation. So first of all,
Steve.
You got this.
Let's call Steve right now. Let's get him on the phone.
Yeah. Oh my God. Should we do that?
Yeah.
You know what? We're going to do that in just a second. The space jockey would be done on the volume, and it would suck.
No,
right?
Yes.
No question.
That's the biggest problem, Mark. Is like you can look at all the other what ifs, but the visual effects technology, the creature effects technology, would ruin this new version of Alien because you could show the alien every possible way, like fully rendered, like in the best CG possible. Whereas back then they had to hide it in the dark and make it. Leave it to your imagination, which is far more powerful than the most beautiful CG artistry or practical creature artistry, frankly, today. You would see the alien completely, like well viewed. And I think that would ruin the mystery and the horror of it, frankly.
Yeah, you shoot the space jockey on the volume, and the alien would be CG. And
it'd be everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. Would they even go with that amazing marketing campaign where they show nothing?
They would show everything.
They show everything.
And it's like Patrick Stewart in Extras. And I saw everything. But okay. No, that's look, obviously. So what do you think were obviously everything that came together in a way? Fox at the time, Alan Ladd Jr. thought, "Oh my God, I rolled, I rolled the perfect, I don't know what you have to roll in craps. What, a 7 for the first time? So he rolled a perfect snake. He rolled 7, right? And with Star Wars,
not roll snake eyes. Yeah.
And okay, he rolled 7. He rolled 7, and so with Star Wars, so he figures, okay, this is going to be like Star Wars, right? Like. Was it really that risky? I mean, what were the impetus for like saying yes to this? It was so different than anything that was being done, and it was obviously so different than Star Wars.
Any thoughts?
Well, tell us a little bit, the history, because obviously it's so interesting that Dan O'Bannon wrote as kind of a B movie, after doing Dark. After I was going to say Dark City, after doing after doing Dark Star, and he did not do Dark City, and after doing Dark Star, and
and after the Dune project collapsed,
right.
he was out of money. He had come back to the United States and was basically sleeping on Ron Shussett's couch, and he was destitute, pretty much. And Shusett said, "Listen, if you have any projects, maybe we could work on them together." He was trying to motivate him to push on in his career. And O'Bannon said, "Yeah, well, I got this little thing that's kind of like 10 Little Indians in space, and it's maybe we can do something with that." And that was the impetus of that project.
That'll be the next Knives Out. Because each one is a different genre, so he's going to do Knives Out in space,
right?
In space.
Could you just see Daniel Craig solving a mystery in space?
No.
So I mean, obviously had that not ridiculous, but a very B movie title. What, Star Beast? I think it was called at the time.
Star Beast.
And I love that quote, and I don't know if it's apocryphal. Maybe Charlie can tell us, where he says, I didn't steal from any one thing. I stole from everything," which is such a great quote. And it's true, because it's like you put all these sci-fi tropes in a blender, but it felt incredibly original because it had never really been done.
Well, and also, I know he had some health problems. I mean, through most of his life, I think, or most of his adult life anyway. But I think that also inspired a bit of the Alien life cycle, and just thoughts about something being growing inside of you, and all that. So
Okay.
yeah, it was kind of a perfect storm in many ways for him.
Gentlemen, I'm sorry, I got a special guest on with us. It's Mr. Steve Asbell, who was interrupted dinner. He was eating with his family, and unfortunately, these annoying guys from the podcast chose to call him. We have a question for you. I'm here with.
You guys again? Is this 4:30 movie?
No, this is Inglorious Decksperts presents Deck 78.
I'm very excited. This is worth interrupting anything.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
Wow. That is a ringing endorsement, sir.
Yes.
So
no one agrees with me, but I anytime.
I'm here with Darren Docterman, Ashley Miller, and the lovely and talented alien expert, Mr. Charlie de Lauzirika. And we're talking about Alien. And it came up in conversation. You know, if Alien was pitched to a studio executive today, never existed in the past, it was all, new. Would it be greenlit today? And we wondered, we would bring it to you. So if you got Alien, the script for Alien on your desk today,
the script for Star Beast.
The script for Star Beast.
I was going to say, the script is a very different thing. The script for Star Beast without, I guess, with Walter Hill at that point?
No, before that.
I'd say that it is a tough one, and I would say it was a tough one then in a strange way, because so much needed to sort of happen, as I'm sure you guys have talked about, but between Ridley and Giger and sort of all the things that kind of came together, Ridley being where he was, Laddie, wanting to take a chance on it and on him, because I'm sure it read to many then, and I've read sort of, various accounts of it, that as pretty B. And so it's always that thing where you think that's the goal, is how can you elevate a B genre movie? And you do it with filmmakers, you do it with talent. And so I would say most likely no, just on the merits of that script, but it was always a great idea. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it was always, and it hadn't been done and all of that. I guess that's the other thing, is that, 40 years later, it is harder to find, those sort of genre explorations that haven't been covered in all kinds of genres. But yeah, I guess I would say no, but with the right talent, like if it was a filmmaker that I was like, oh my gosh, like that person's amazing, I love that work, I would do whatever. I mean, that's kind of how we are today. It's like you really find a filmmaker and you love his or her work, and you're like, I want to do whatever they want to do next. But look, I also think it's always a credit to Ladd, who was like, well, when they came in and said they needed another $6-8 million, he's like, all right, let's do that. Like, that's where I think everybody did their jobs. Everybody sort of, I don't want to say pitched in, but everybody supported it. Well, not everybody actually, but Charlie, does that sound? Charlie's been through it with me over many years. Has been on set, has been in the middle of all of it, the good and the bad and the ugly. But I would throw it back to you guys. What do you think?
Well, that's what we're about to talk about. We got sidetracked with a conversation about the fact that Raiders would have indeed happened, even if that Indiana Jones did affect the plot of Raiders, because apparently people were outraged about the meme that the movie would have ended the same way had Indiana Jones done nothing. But we resolved that situation, and now we're on to the whole Alien situation.
Are people still doing that? That's that thing about Indy wouldn't have happened.
Well, yeah, because
he wasn't involved. That's an old one.
Yes, because Mark posted it.
I made the mistake of posting it because I thought it was amusing, and then people took it way too seriously.
Now that you bring it up,
they were all outraged. They were outraged as though we were somehow endorsing this perspective, which we did not. Now, the other question is, why is Star Trek 6 better than... Never mind.
We asked that question.
It's not better than anything.
Can Darren hear me?
Yeah, they can hear you. Charlie just said Star Trek 6 isn't better than anything. I can't believe we're having this conversation again.
I can't believe the gift keeps on giving.
Yeah.
Like we're in a time machine.
We should do, now that we have 4K everything, finally. Darren, I got the physical set, of course, the big set. I actually went to a Best Buy because I was unhappy with the fact that Amazon had delayed my shipment until the 14th.
Nice.
So I went to a Best Buy and bought it, and I'm so happy. I sent a picture to Mark the other day just because I was watching the 4K physical, and it's just so beautiful.
It's
Well,
so
Steve,
beautiful.
Steve can't hear me, but that's awesome.
So Darren just said that's awesome, and he really appreciates it, and that a lot of people could learn the lesson from you.
I had a 9-year-old fan here who wanted to say something, and he ran out of the room.
Oh,
I'm so excited. I've heard the podcast before. We're having, sort of getting into Trek, slowly, but he just ran out.
Has he seen The Godfather yet?
No.
Okay.
No, I haven't been. I'm too afraid that they'll just be like, nah, I don't want to do it, and I don't think I can take it.
The reason I ask is because we're about to launch The Kids Stay in the Picture with Caden Miller and Isaac Altman, and I'm sure they could always use a third to discuss movies. And so if he wants to discuss, anybody who loves Star Trek the Motion Picture is okay in our book.
Can you say hi? This is Giles. He's a big fan.
Hello.
Hey, Giles.
Hey,
We
Giles.
heard you.
Hi, Giles.
You just watched Star Trek the Motion Picture.
Well, he didn't watch it with me. We actually did. You came to. That's not true. You came to the screening with me.
Yeah.
At Paramount.
Yeah.
So
That's
we're,
right.
We're getting there. We're getting there.
What did you
just didn't
think?
He said, "What did you think?"
I liked it.
What-
Stage fright.
Okay, before he goes, ask him what his favorite part was. Did he have a favorite part?
Oh, this is gonna get too nervous.
Okay, that's okay, Giles. Thank you, but we're gonna call you again because we want to have you on The Kids Stay in the Podcast.
Kids Stay in the Podcast.
We can't decide. Is the Kids Stay in the Picture or the Kids Stay in the Podcast? We don't know.
Kids stay in the picture. We don't know.
Stay in the picture. The kids. The kids plural. Stay in
Yeah,
the picture.
plural. The Kids
That's
Stay in the
brilliant.
Podcast.
That's
or the
great.
Kids Stay in the
Kids
Picture.
Stay in the picture is great.
Yeah,
That's great. Good idea. All right,
Yeah.
we're gonna bone up on some. You haven't seen Godfather yet. I'm too afraid to show it to you, and then you say
I
it's
want
boring.
to see it.
Yes, and
There
then
you
tell me
go.
it's boring, we're gonna be in a whole other place.
that will be in a whole other place then. Has he seen Alien?
He is not. No, his older brother's seen Alien. He has not seen Alien.
Okay. Well,
So
listen.
he has seen Terminator 2. He's seen Prey. He watched Prey with us.
Of course.
It was exciting. So I have to make movies they can occasionally see and say nice things about.
That
What's
is.
your new favorite movie.
See, and you
Prey is his
greenlit
new
Prey,
favorite movie.
so maybe you would have greenlit Alien.
Maybe, but again,
But
that's
not
another.
Starbeast.
This feels like another podcast.
You know what? You're right.
Episode.
And we got to discuss Star Trek
Movie
4.
Steve with green light.
Star Trek 4 too. So we want to thank you for taking time from your busy day and talking to us, and we will talk to you soon about why Star Trek 6 is awesome. I mean,
It's awesome, and I'm so happy you guys have Charlie on. He's one of my oldest and dearest friends, and he's just the greatest person ever.
well, we're happy to have Charlie on too, and we're going to go back to talking to him now.
All right.
Wait,
I
and
look
tell
forward to this.
Sue I love him too, please.
Especially look forward to the episode. I'll get to see what stupid shit I've said. So,
Charlie says he loves you too.
aw,
So it's mutual admiration society here.
I know. Come on.
There's no subtext in this relationship.
OT original trilogy quotes are still allowed.
Okay. Thank you to Giles, and thank you to you, Steve. We'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Bye.
Now,
I just have a question. Isn't Star Trek 4 2 Star Trek 5?
yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, sorry.
Look,
Sorry.
Mark, before you move on, just next time, just let me invite whoever we want to talk to and have them actually join the podcast.
Okay,
we
but
can do that.
That wasn't planned at all. So
I know.
But now I know
Yeah.
for next time.
But we can.
Okay.
We have the
We have the
We have the
technology.
technology.
That's correct.
To build the first bionic podcast.
Podcast.
Okay, that's great. Well, let's get back to Charlie because that's why he's here. We were here to delve into his expertise on this subject. And what was it like for you personally, having admired this film for so long and Ridley's career, to then become, so close with Ridley and chronicling so much of his career? That must have been remarkable.
It was, and it was something I kind of fell into by accident, to be honest, because aside from all of my appreciation of his work and certainly Alien and Blade Runner, I never planned on being a making of guy. So it's been an interesting journey, and I'll say this. I mean, I learned a lot. I got to meet some really fascinating people, and getting sort of like the inside baseball on some of these projects has been, sobering, but enlightening, inspiring, and depressing. It's kind of all over the map, but it's been the best sort of like postgraduate film school I could have imagined.
I'm going to pay you a compliment because you say, I didn't anticipate being a making of guy. And I think in the case of a lot of the VAM, that's what it is. People are the making of guys, but there are exceptions. And I think you are one of those exceptions who is a filmmaker, a genuine filmmaker, because what you've done is you've created films, whether it be Dangerous Days or whether it be that amazing kitschy cut of Blade Runner with all the deleted and alternative footage and, a lot of the storytelling that you're doing. I mean, it's beyond simply, EPK, making of, behind the scenes. I think you're doing yourself a disservice by saying...
For those listening at home, VAM is value-added material. That's the bonus material that are on discs. And EPK means electronic press kit, which is the behind-the-scenes footage. Just letting our listeners follow up. Yes.
We have to release a glossary of terms.
EPK tends to be more promotional and more kind of more, I don't want to say fluffy exactly, more promotional, more about selling the movie and not so much of a deep dive into the nuts and bolts and the making of the movie and the people who made it especially. So, yeah, I've always tried to steer clear of that type of stuff, even though, to pay the bills, I've had to do it as well. But I love when I'm allowed to go deep, and in the case of like Alien, the 4 Alien movies and Prometheus. And by the way, if you ever do a part 2 to this, you should have me and Steve on to talk about Prometheus, because we were on that together, and that was like probably the most fun I've ever had on a movie set ever. I mean, even though it's not the real space jockey set, to be on like the new space jockey set, basically, with the chair and everything, and to be able to walk the corridors of the Prometheus, like that was a dream come true. So when you talk about like, what was it like to, be associated with Alien and kind of take this journey with Ridley or whatever, that to me in many ways was the culmination, was to be on the set of the new Alien movie, regardless of what you think of the movie. I just had like such, I felt like that 11-year-old again at the Egyptian Theater, except I was actually walking these sets. I was seeing these creatures,
It proves my inverse enjoyment formula. To the more enjoyment the filmmakers have on set, the less enjoyment the audience does.
I was going to say the week we do that, Darren will be traveling abroad, so we can enjoy talking about Prometheus without him shitting on it, because some of us actually like that movie.
I don't shit on things that don't ask for it.
Yeah, okay,
well, you know what? You have to pay extra for that in Tijuana.
I would think, Darren. I understand why you don't like the movie. I get it. I understand. I know a lot of people don't. But just as a production, as a concept artist yourself, as somebody in the art department, how you could not admire the film, if only from that level, how beautiful it is. It's one of the best looking sci-fi movies of all time, even if you don't like the story. Okay, moving on.
The elements that were copied from Alien look really good.
Okay, we're moving on.
What's interesting about Prometheus, though? It's sort of enjoying this kind of like Phantom Menace style resurgence, because people that loved Phantom Menace when it came out are now of an age where they look back with nostalgia, and I feel like the Prometheus nostalgia is starting to kick in, believe it or not.
Yeah,
and I don't. Go ahead.
I think that Phantom Menace thing is overblown. I think that's actually a function of the success of the Clone Wars, which basically and Rebels, which basically completely rehabilitated that film and made it feel retroactively like it doesn't suck. Like, I mean, I do think that there are things about Prometheus that are very interesting, but I think that what makes the Alien movies work when they really work is that they're smart, but they're also very visceral. And I have to tell you, in anticipation of talking to you today, I went and I rewatched the 2003 assembly cut of Alien 3, which is goddamn fantastic. Like, it just works. I think It's a real testament to what happens in the editing room, right? That sometimes you add time to things and you make them more boring. Sometimes you add time to things and you make them more exciting. It's not just adding additional scenes; it's really changing context. And
speaking of context, can you explain for the people in the audience who don't know what you're alluding to, why there's a David Fincher assembly cut in the anthology set, what the significance of that was, why it exists, and why it's so awesome?
Me or Ashley?
Yeah, Charlie, why don't you just explain the context and let Ashley jump back in? Because I don't want to get too far ahead.
I was enjoying his Alien 3 Love Fest. It was great because I agree. Look, after the first Alien DVD came out in 1999, a couple of years after that, Fox approached me about doing a 5-star collection of Alien, which was a kind of a super special edition line they had back then. They did Die Hard, they did several movies. Speed was one of the ones I got to do for them. They wanted to do Alien, which would have been a 2-disc set, and I said, Alien, we just did it. It was done pretty nicely. We don't need to do it again. And they kept coming back to me, and then finally, like the 4th or 5th time we talked about it, and by the way, every time they came back to me, I said, let's do Alien 3 because that's the one that needs it, because there's like this lost cut that's out there somewhere. We got to find it. Fincher got kind of screwed over, so there's a great documentary material that we could possibly do. I kept bringing this up, and they kept saying, let's just do Alien. So finally, like on the 3rd or 4th try, and they said, let's do Alien. I said, let's do Alien 3. They said, how about you do all 4? And that blew my mind, because then suddenly
like an Alien cycle.
Or
yes, indeed.
Stop me if you've heard this, a quadrilogy.
But that allowed me to kind of start from scratch and then apply that to Alien as well. So that meant doing these long form documentaries. It meant creating extended cuts of 3 of the films, because Aliens had already gotten its special edition a few years before that. So, but that allowed me to really get into the whole Alien 3. Where's the lost cut? What is the lost cut? What footage is there? What can we do? And basically, when Fincher was making the movie,
it still would have existed even if Indiana Jones had done nothing in that movie.
That's true. Even though Indy would have been 4 feet tall. So there's that to consider. But so basically, yeah, the story was Fincher kind of really got screwed pretty much at every turn during the making of Alien 3. And so that was a great kind of nightmare cautionary tale to tell in the making of documentary. But what it also did was it let us know that he had a seriously compromised cut that came out in the theaters that, hopefully he would get a chance to participate in this new kind of resurrection, no pun intended, of his film. And he said no, and I sent him a really nice letter. I said no. I had intermediaries talk to him. He said no. And I get it, because again, he got thoroughly boned on the making of that film. So we set out to try to do the best we could without him. And we found a lost cut, which was the longest and most different cut we could possibly find that was test screened early on, before, I believe, the LA reshoots, where Sigourney Weaver had to wear a bald cap for parts of it. And we went about to restore that cut of the movie, but it meant we had to go in and finish visual effects that had never been even started in some cases. So in the 2002, 2003 era, we made this new version of Alien 3 using the pieces that we could find and then finishing the pieces that weren't finished. And there you go. And then fortunately, we had another crack at it. And actually, I hope you watched the Blu-ray, not the DVD, for the assembly cut. Did you?
Oh shit, I didn't.
Okay, the Blu-ray.
You watched the DVD?
Yeah.
Why would you even be watching DVDs in 2002?
Wait. So tell me this. So I'll tell you how I watched it, but I think it came off of the DVD. So
on Laserdisc.
No, I watched I got the iTunes package with everything. So it's got the 4K Alien, and then it's got the special edition of Aliens. It's got the special edition of Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection. So I always assumed that was what came off of the DVD.
Well,
maybe I'm wrong.
Was it in HD when you watched it?
Yeah. So it must be the Blu-ray.
So it's
a completely different master. But basically, in 2010 for the Blu-ray set, we got a second bite at the apple on Alien 3. So we went in and we brought back Sigourney Weaver, Lance Henriksen, and Charles Dance to loop all their deleted scene lines, because previously they had, there were like fans and there was noise on the set, and we had to put subtitles in on the DVD because you couldn't understand what they were saying half the time. So they all came back and redid their dialogue for Alien 3 in the year 2010. So I was hoping you would see that version, because there's a strange hybrid out there now, thanks to HBO Max, where it's the beautifully picture restored HD master, but the old DVD bad sound. Which I don't even know how that happened. So
weird. No. The sound on the version that's on iTunes was actually pretty great. Like, you could totally understand what the hell everybody was saying. And
great.
The performances in that movie are awesome. It's just, by the way, Pete Potwhistle is in it.
Yes, he is.
I just think I should point that out. Yeah. But the thing that really just impresses me is, you think about that as a David Fincher movie, is really like his first time in the big chair, and the choices that he makes that are so fascinating. And I'll tell you, like, the shot that stands out to me, and you tell me if you think I'm crazy. So the moment that they find a face hugger for the first time, there's no close up, there's no lingering whatever. Like, that guy is way in the background, and he picks up the face hugger. You just see the shape of it. He says, "Hey, what's this?" And then it cuts away, and it's brilliant because you recognize that silhouette. You kind of know what movie you're in, so it's cheating a little bit, but it's fantastic because it's just so offhand. And it's I don't know, I'm just so impressed with, like, just the choices that Fincher was making, even with almost no experience, that kind of thing.
Well, it's interesting you bring up that shot, because we did have the close-up of that version of that, like, that moment, and it's in the documentary, in Wreckage and Rage, the documentary I made, just to show you that shot. But basically, that the cut that we discovered had that wider shot that you're talking about. And my whole thing was, let's not do a glorified fan edit. Let's actually archeologically go into, like, the original stuff we could find, because that even if Fincher wasn't involved, it still provides a link to his authorship over the film at that period of time when he was actually still working on it. But yeah, I agree. I think that's a great shot. And there's a lot of moments in the assembly cut where I think conventional wisdom would have said, cut to this instead of that. And we always stayed away from that decision making, because we thought, let's just follow the gospel of what's in this cut that we found. And I've read a lot of people say, oh, if only they did this, and if only they did that. And then it would be, then it's a fan edit. Then suddenly I'm the guy putting this together. And I mean, putting my own sort of stamp on it. It's like, that's not up to me. It's up to the piece of film that we found. Let's just
it's not like you have Orson Welles' Touch of Evil memo, or
right.
something like that, where you know exactly how the pieces are supposed to fit together, or how the director wanted it to fit together. I think that's great. And it's really interesting, because you talked about this reappraisal, and I think Alien 3 is one of those films that's gone through a tremendous reappraisal, in no small part due to this assembly cut. And a lot of it probably has to do, and tell me if you agree, Charlie, that at the time people were so in love with Michael Biehn's character and Carrie Henn's character, that they could never forgive the way in which they were killed, eliminated at the very top of the movie. You had, given your heart and empathy and had invested in these characters, and then it's all, erased at the beginning of the movie. And I think that created a lot of negativity towards this movie, that now, people accept that and can evaluate the film on its own terms, and have really come to embrace what a great movie it is in many ways.
Well, I think also what kind of set people off was some of the trailers before Alien 3 came out, particularly the first one, the teaser that said, on Earth, no one can hear you scream, or whatever, or everyone can hear you scream. And so people thought, oh, they're going to Earth this time. They're going to fight aliens on Earth. So that was already, and that was just marketing bullshit. Like, that was just them trying to get people excited. I get it. But people thought that was the movie. Then, as you say, the kind of the very indelicate way they offed Hicks and Newt and half of Bishop was, like, definitely not to people's liking. I think because they were expecting more kick-ass Marines action in this film, and this film was never going to be about that, for sure. So I do think it took some time. Not only that, but Fincher himself, he had to, like, watch his films to get his vibe, because when you see, like, Seven and The Game and Fight Club and everything that came after that, Zodiac, it's like you realize, oh, now I know what a David Fincher movie is. So it's easier to go back to Alien 3 and say, oh, there he is. I get him now. I get this movie now because it's Fincher. And at that time, he didn't have that kind of like track record with the audience.
Plus, I think there was another thing that was at work there, and this is purely subjective, and maybe it's just an accumulation of little changes up front and kind of how things felt. But let's put aside the expectation that we went from horror movie to action movie, and now we're kind of going back to horror and a different kind of horror. And the audience is making an adjustment to that, and they're dealing with a marketing campaign that tried to sell it as the action movie and not the horror movie that it was. There's also, I think, in the theatrical cut, it wasn't just abrupt in terms of, okay, well, now they're just dead and that's it. But it was also abrupt in terms of how the film handled it. Oh, they're just dead and that's it. And one of the things that I really feel very keenly in that assembly cut is that their deaths really matter to Ripley, and she struggles with those deaths, and she particularly struggles with Newt's death. It is heartrending and harrowing when she is doing that autopsy. It is, it's a real thing when they commit their bodies, to the flames when they're cremated. And it's not really the sort of proper goodbye that you want to give to the character, but by letting Ripley go through and process all those emotions, I think it didn't make it okay, right? Like, not in the sense that, oh, it's okay that they're dead, but it gave it a sort of sense in terms of what the movie was and what the movie became and what the theme was. She is all alone. There is no version of that movie where Newt's with her and they're kind of hanging out and Newt is the stakes character, right? Even Bishop is like, hey, if you could off me, that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think, thematically, if you look at Alien and it's ostensibly about birth and Aliens about life, survival, motherhood, Alien 3 had to be about death. And so the whole film is basically it's the death of the series in a way, but like the designed death of it, and this death of Ripley. It's about the ending of things, and I really love that that's thematically there from the very beginning, because when we lose Hicks and Newt right off the bat, the film is telling the audience no one is safe, and in the end we find out no one is safe, And I love that it followed through. It had the balls to follow through on that, even if there's a lot of interference along the way for Fincher. It still got that point across, I think, pretty well. And I also think it's Sigourney's best performance as Ripley out of all the movies that she's done as Ripley. I think it's by far her most, real, heartfelt, heart-wrenching performance. Because in Aliens, even though she got an Oscar nomination for Aliens, I think that was such an amazing moment and stride forward for genre performances. But Alien 3 was so nuanced and delicate and just vulnerable in a way that she wasn't before. And I just think that was a really great capper to a great Ripley trilogy. And we'll just stop there and not talk about what came after.
Well, I was just going to say, if you describe birth, life, and death, then some would believe that resurrection comes after that. And in this case,
after that comes a crappy Firefly episode.
That's redundant.
I knew you were going to say that, Darren. So, again, Darren will be out of town when we do the Firefly episode.
Me too. Darren and I will be in Vegas.
Yeah. Okay, I'll do the Firefly episode alone then. But Darren, what was your feeling when you saw Resurrection for the first time?
Well, Resurrection,
Alien Resurrection. Yeah.
I was appalled. Just from the first frame to the last, it's the fascination with the deformed is a really annoying factor in this film. Whether it's a deformed storyline, a deformed character, supporting characters that look like they belong in a sideshow. It's really it's not fun to watch. There's nothing fun about that movie. Not even the basketballs or the basketball scene.
It's so bizarre, isn't it, Ashley, that you have, somebody would say, okay, the guy who did Delicatessen, City of Lost Children, he's the perfect guy to do an Alien sequel.
That's nonsense. It's because it's not an Alien movie. The thing that makes the Alien movies work, the ones that work really work, is that it very firmly grounds it in our world, right? That was one of the things that made the first Alien so unique and special, is that it felt like it was happening in a real world. And that was true in Aliens. It was even true in Alien 3, where, it was obviously this very strange setup with this prison, but the world building was excellent. Like you believed it and it felt connected. Once you get into Alien Resurrection, you're suddenly in some weird ass la la land of makeup effects and just strange things. And it just, even the colors in that movie feel wrong. There's something about the color palette that just turns me off in a big way. And it feels like I said it felt like a Firefly episode. It also feels a little bit like a Lex episode, but like without all the things that made me kind of like Lex. You know what I mean? It's just sort of German or it's not really German, it's French, but it just has that sort of like, I don't know. It's
disgusting. It's disgusting.
What's French
to
for
watch.
I don't want to know. Yes, it is.
Look, the scenes without the aliens are even more disgusting than the scenes with the aliens.
Right.
That's the problem. Is that there's no up and down in it. It is all down.
There's one good scene, I think. Well, it's just a good set piece. It's not really a good scene. It's like it's the whole thing underwater, which I thought
they
was
built the
cool.
tank at Fox.
Yeah.
It's an interesting twist on the pursuit.
But that was it.
But that's it.
Charlie, how hard is it for you to work on a film? Now, I don't believe you had access to that one. You didn't cover that one, and then also it's presumably a film you don't like either. Is it, how difficult is it to approach that as part of the Alien cycle when you have these three films that you adore, and then you have this?
Yeah, no, that's a fair question. I seriously believe this. I treat every project I work on as I'm that film's biggest fan. Mm-hmm. I always approach it that way, to say, if I loved this film the way someone out there does, and they're the number one fan of this film in the world, I'm going to try to dig up all the lost footage, all the missing stuff, all the great stories. Like, I really try to approach it from that point of view. So with Resurrection, I had to hold my nose a bit, but when you consider that the cast and the crew on that were in their own pre-Alien Resurrection worlds geniuses in their own way. I mean, they were some amazing artists and actors who worked on that film. It just the way it kind of came together, the alchemy of it all, and I think that had to do with Jean-Pierre Jeunet, like, kind of, I don't want to say roll over, but he definitely said, I'm making a Hollywood movie when he made this. And it was the French version of a Hollywood movie, which I've never seen.
Which is not a Hollywood movie.
Yeah, I've never seen that work.
No, I saw Valerian also. Yeah.
Well, even in the most sort of basic ideas, and this is going into the script. I mean, previously we've had sort of amazing names for the ships. The Nostromo, the Sulaco, and then we have the Betty.
Well, the Auriga is the name of the big ship.
Yeah, but still, it's terrible.
That's terrible. A very Joss Whedon, proto Firefly.
Yeah, well,
take.
I mean,
look at that crew.
Joss
that is.
Yeah.
Well, there goes that week.
Yeah.
John, I guess Buffy week. Yes, Darren will also be gone. But
Darren's not going to be around much.
That crew in Alien Resurrection, you can map them almost 1-to-1 to the Firefly crew.
Yep.
They're less French.
Yeah, way less French.
Yeah. But there's just a lot of there's so many silly ideas in Resurrection, like the whole thing about taking the whiskey cube and having to get a laser for it to pour out into the glass. It's like, that was just stupid. There was no reason for that. It was so dumb. And I get they were thinking,
also the alcohol would evaporate, but
of course. But I guess they're thinking it's 200 years after Alien 3, so it has to be super futuristic, and yet they still have paper money, and it was just such a weird let's just throw ideas and see what sticks type of approach, which the previous three did not do that. The previous three were very disciplined, I thought, in their world building, and Resurrection was just like, let's just see what happens. And
Basketball is a peaceful planet.
Did you ever think when you put the cycle to bed that you would find yourself back in the Alien universe with Prometheus and Covenant?
No, I was not involved with Covenant, but I with Prometheus, it was a big surprise. I was interviewing Ridley for his Robin Hood movie on the day that it broke in the trades that he was going to do an Alien prequel, and I actually said when it was over, I said, "So Alien prequel, huh?" He goes, "Yep." He was just like, let's go make some money, pretty much. I guess let's get a franchise going.
So that was before he started denying that it was an Alien prequel.
It's interesting. It was kind of, it started, if you watch my documentary, The Furious Gods, on the Prometheus making of, basically, you track that it was originally supposed to be a real sincere Alien movie.
Yeah.
But then people kind of like started thinking, like, I think they overthought it. Like, let's make it not an Alien movie to surprise people. And because it's mostly a space jockey / engineer movie, let's make that the thing. And then it's peripherally Alien, but not really Alien. So it kind of it began as a straight up Alien movie, then morphed into whatever discussions were had. And then towards the end, I think they tried to steer it back towards at least a little bit of Alien fan service stuff. But yeah, the evolution of that film is really interesting, because when I was walking around in the art department, this is like a year and a half before the movie came out or so, and I saw these giant, like, Michelangelo type sculptured looking dudes with visual references of Elvis and the Statue of Liberty for faces and things like that. I'm like, what the hell is this? And I asked Arthur Max, the production designer, so those aren't supposed to be the engineers, right? He goes, yep. And I was like, what happened to, like, the 15-foot tall elephantine creature that I fell in love with as a kid? What is this guy? So I had my own evolution as well. It's like, by the end, I drank the Kool-Aid, and I was like, all right, let's see what this is. Let's see what happens. Let's see how this develops. But like, that first impulse I had was like, oh man, I'm not sure this is going to be for me. But as a documentarian, I have to throw all that out and say, let me just follow this process and capture it journalistically, and not, comment, making snarky fan comments along the way, which I tried not to do.
Well, let me ask you.
I would not be good doing that.
No, you would not. That's why you just stay on Star Trek: The Motion Picture, the movie you can only say good things about. Okay, so my question.
How dare you?
So
damn you, sir.
My question, of course, would now be, there's the old Star Wars versus Empire debate and Godfather versus Godfather 2. Where do you fall in the whole aliens? I think I know, but I got to ask the question to all of you.
For me, it's Alien easily. But I say that I love Aliens. Don't get me wrong. Aliens is a kick-ass movie. It's really well made, and it's so rewatchable and so entertaining, and it does everything I think that Jim Cameron wanted to do. It does it perfectly. I just prefer the more, I don't know, like you said before, kind of the visceral feeling of Alien, because I can relate to those characters. It's like, I know those people. Those people are like all the assholes that you meet kind of in life, who just bicker and complain about their work. And the Colonial Marines had a little bit of that for sure. But I think as Jim Cameron even said on the commentary track, he said, these are Vietnam era grunts. They're not like the highly trained professionals that you would probably see. If he had to redo the movie again, they'd probably be more like what you saw in Avatar. So I think Alien is great, but definitely Alien is my favorite for sure.
What about you, Ashley?
Well, it's funny. It's like, if they were more like what they were in Avatar. In other words, kind of like that, but more boring. No, I don't know, man. It's so tough. I mean, let's just review the facts for a moment, and let's even throw Alien 3 into the mix. You've got a film series where here are your 3 directors who worked on it: Ridley Scott, Jim Cameron, David Fincher, right? And as compromised as Alien 3 was, the fact that you've got these 3 very different visions, I think is incredibly interesting. And it makes it difficult to make the comparison, like, between any of them. I think that ultimately Alien is probably the most successful out of the box. And by successful, I don't mean, the amount of money that it made, but I mean
creatively.
In terms creatively, I think that it's in every aspect of the game. I don't think that movie shows a flaw anywhere. It's like it's a little bit like Jaws in that sense. That even with the limitations of the technology and everything else with making the film, that it was seamless. Like, if you release that movie today, it would work. You wouldn't feel like, oh, that's quaint. No, that movie holds up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, obviously Aliens does too, but I don't know that Aliens, we talked about, like, would you make Alien today, right? Like, if you got that script. I don't know that you would make Aliens without Alien.
No, you wouldn't.
And that to me is the ultimate test. And so I got to say Alien, I think.
What about you, Darren?
It's interesting that you mentioned my love of Star Trek: The Motion Picture, because there are definite parallels between Star Trek: The Motion Picture and Wrath of Khan, and Alien and Aliens. I love all of them, but I think the purity of essence of Alien is unmatched, because it sneaks up on you. It is a completely real world, and it's scary as hell. And while I really love Aliens too, it's not scary. It's a different kind of movie, and that's fine. But I think that the original Alien is so refined, and the little glimpses that you get of each of the Alien stages are so well done that you never once consider them to be a movie prop. That isn't the case in Aliens. In Aliens, every time you see an alien, it kind of looks like a suit or a puppet or something. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it works with the style of the movie.
I remember when I interviewed Yaphet Kotto for the Bond book, and he was so proud of the fact. He says, I was the first black actor to ever hit a white man on film. I'm not sure if that's true, but he said it. He goes, I was the first black man in space. Not sure that was true. And he goes, and I was the first black Bond villain. That I know is true. So he was very proud of his role in Alien, and he was a really interesting guy.
He played an amazing character.
Yeah, he's amazing. He's so great in so many things. Everything from Homicide to obviously, I loved him in Truck Turner with Michelle. He was great in Live and Let Die. I mean, he's across 110th Street. He's fucking great. But anyway, The point, that's not the question. The question is, boring as it is, I agree with you guys. Alien, to me, is like kind of the perfect film, and I believe that universe. And it was like something I had never really seen before. And Aliens, I remember seeing it. I went to the press screening. I saw it before it opened, and I was just telling anybody who would listen to me, this movie is freaking great. You got to go see it when it opens. It's amazing. But I think Alien is the more impressive achievement. But Aliens is phenomenal. But it's what you argue, how Star Wars is better than Empire. There's no Empire without Star Wars. There's no Aliens without Alien.
Yeah.
And yet I think Empire is the better movie. So
this time it's plural.
This time there's like more than one. What we haven't.
By the way, I was texting with Mr. Asbell and asked which was his favorite, and he says I abstain. So
yeah, I bet he does. Yeah.
That's very smart.
He was such a good sport. Well, and he's such good friends with Ridley that I don't think he would want to weigh in anyway, and that's why he is a successful executive. And
we're not. We're just a-holes with a podcast.
But for anybody who hasn't gotten Charlie's amazing Alien anthology on Blu-ray, they should absolutely. What did I say? Cycle?
No, I want Cycle to start trending now. Alien Cycle.
Yeah, okay. Well,
anthology trilogy Cycle
with the Alien movies is really, really phenomenal. And yes, there's a 4K Alien, but you really want this phenomenal Blu-ray set that has all 4 films and these incredible documentaries. And
you need the VAM.
And the VAM, you need it. You got to have it. And it's a great set. And it comes in a really nice box, too. So unlike the Star Trek The Motion Picture set, which is perfect in every detail except for the box. So
I don't disagree with you.
I'm sure you don't. Oh, look what Charlie's holding up for those of you who can't see him right now.
Oh, look at that.
It's the UK version. It's the British version. The more sturdy.
Oh, you got the one with the better box.
Yeah.
Oh, look.
The 5-disc.
What's in the box?
Star Trek 5.
Yeah, it's so great. I mean, the 2 of the people here have been involved with some of the great restoration projects of our time. Not Lawrence Arabia, but, you with so many wonderful films, from Blade Runner to Alien 3, and Darren, of course, with Star Trek.
I just have one, and one is all I need.
I still have a question though, which is there's a film. I don't mean like the works of Paul W.S. Anderson, but there's a film that we haven't said anything about yet, and there's something
because I was trying to wrap up, but go ahead by all means.
I know you were, but I have to ask, because this can be a very short discussion. To this day, and I saw it. To this day, I still don't know what happened in Alien Covenant. Can anybody summarize
Covenant.
it for me?
Alien
Covenant. Alien Covenant. I mean...
Yeah. You know what happened? The Alien franchise died. That's what happened in Alien Covenant.
That's not quite true, because Noah Hawley is doing a TV series for FX right now.
We'll see.
Yeah. What do you mean we'll see? It's happening.
We'll
it's
see.
Filming.
That's great. We'll see.
Yeah.
Okay. Always so negative. To me, everything's great until I see it.
Well, you're disappointed more than I am.
That's true.
I only saw Covenant once, so I don't remember a lot of the details, but I do remember thinking the first act was very conventional Alien in terms of like a bunch of strangers that we've never met before, but they all have kind of cool names, and someone's got a cowboy hat and whatever. They land on a planet.
Danny McBride.
Yeah, they land on a planet and they stick their face and stuff happens. And then the third act is, you think you've defeated the alien, but no, you haven't. The alien's on your ship, and hilarity ensues. To me, the second act was the really interesting part, like the stuff with Walter and David that I never would have expected to see in an Alien film. I thought that was really interesting. And I'm not saying it was entirely successful, but at least it was different.
Until they start fighting on top of the spaceship and clawing on while it's like taking out the city, and it's all this awful CG.
Now, if only one of the aliens had been wearing that cowboy hat.
That would have been great.
That would have been awesome.
Yes.
That would have been
movie
great.
Saved.
There's things about Covenant I like, I have to say. I think it's a noble failure, as opposed to a ignoble failure, ignominious failure, like Alien versus Predator, which has no redeeming value whatsoever. Yeah. So
Ignalians.
I think the thing with what?
I thought you said Pygmalions. My fair alien.
Pygmalions. Yeah. Well, basically. Pygmalions, like Rex Harrison,
the musical version, My Fair Alien, was Pygmalion.
This is an old joke from Starlog magazine.
Oh,
okay,
just to let you know.
Okay,
but it's
there
funny.
You go. Okay, well, look, this is great, Charlie. I'm so glad we had you on the show, and we have to have you back. You've been involved with so many seminal movies, and obviously so well versed in the genre. So I hope you'll join us again, and maybe I'll get the credits right, and I'll do a little research before we talk, rather than do it off the top of my head, because I don't exactly prepare for these things.
Nor should you. It should be very casual and off the cuff, and just it should be unprepared.
But we should it's still the 40th anniversary of Blade Runner this year. Maybe we can talk about that if you're not all talked out on that. And but again, you're such a fan of the genre, we don't have to talk about something you worked on. We can talk about other things too.
No, for sure. I would love to come back. This is a lot of fun, and no joke. Get Asbell and I together to talk about Prometheus, because then it'll be a whole new dimension of horror.
That'd be fun.
A new dimension in horror. Oh, we should totally do that. I think that would be great. I mean, we've really never asked Steve to talk about movies he's worked on, because it's better to have him on as a fan. So there is no conflict. But we don't want to get him in trouble with the powers that be. So,
he's a smart guy. He can defend himself. I'm sure he'll navigate.
That's true.
But
he is coming to
debate. Story about a lot.
He's coming to debate Darren again about Star Trek 4. So we're looking forward to that.
Wait, so what's the debate on Trek 4?
He's not coming back to debate Star Trek 4.
Well, Darren and him debated Star Trek 6, and it was nobody landed a knockout punch. It was a very even fight. Very good fight.
How is that possible?
It was not. I had two judges against me from day one. So
we were as fair as the Supreme Court was when it came to abortion. We swore that we were going to have an open mind, and we did not.
Yeah.
Anyway, but let's not talk about the real world because it's so depressing. We'll stick to our movies from 1979, which give us so much joy. So I want to thank Charlie again for joining us. And you can find him on social media at
Lauzirika, Lauzirika, my last name.
So you can follow his exploits and see what he's up to. Ashley Miller is with us. Darren Doctorman. Of course, you can follow us at Inglorious Trek or Inglorious Treksperts on Instagram and find out why Indiana Jones was not instrumental to stopping the Nazis. I don't know. I don't know why people are so worked up. It was a little joke these people made. I thought it was
what in the next
Indiana Jones. Sorry, go ahead.
In the next movie, it will be only Indiana Jones. It will be Indiana Jones and nothing else.
How cute was that picture?
We learned the title. We learned the title today. They announced it. It is
Indiana Jones.
Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
Indiana Jones and the Indiana Jones of Indiana Jones
and nothing.
We were so upset when they tried to retitle Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark, where the name of that movie is Raiders of the Lost Ark. So now they're saying, ha, now we're not even going to give you anything.
Now they're doubling down.
They're doubling down on the Indiana Jones of it all.
Yeah.
Which is like they couldn't come up with a pulpy title. How can you not have a pulpy title?
That's what I read. I don't know.
I mean, we can think of a contest.
It sounds like Indiana Jones and the lack of imagination.
Oh, man. I'm disappointed.
Man.
I'm really disappointed.
Where's this announced? I don't see it anywhere. Where's this announced at?
They announced it at D23.
Yeah.
Not today.
No, not today. I don't know why he said today. They announced it at D23. And it's really sad because they also
said today because I read about it today.
Oh, they had the great picture with Short Round, where he was reunited with
that was adorable. That was great. I love that picture.
That was so cute. I hope because I hear the rumor is they're doing reshoots, and I hope that they're putting Short Round in there.
No, they won't.
I don't know. People
There's
love
always time for love, Dr. Jones.
Exactly.
There's always time for love.
If the title was just Indiana Jones, Twitter would be on fire right now, and I see nothing about Indiana Jones.
That's what they said. They said the title in D23 was Indiana Jones.
No, I know, but D23 it was just a logo. It was just a placeholder. It's not the title.
No,
it's not the title of the movie.
I sure hope not. But they in the trades it said it was announced that the title was Indiana Jones. But they made the same mistake other people made. They see the title, the card, and they assume that's it. Because maybe it's a spoiler.
Maybe all of Twitter is just silent because they can't believe their freaking eyes.
I don't know.
Or they're 50% bots.
Twitter is often silent.
I don't believe anything. I think
don't believe them. Don't trust.
You got to change the William Goldman act. Nobody knows anything. To no one knows anything. Don't believe them. Don't trust them.
Nobody knows anything about you screaming. No,
but the thing is, on the web, on the internet, everyone thinks they know everything and they know nothing. I mean, some of the stupidity that I read is insane.
Like people posting memes of Indiana Jones not having anything to do with the Lost Ark.
And you know what?
Horrible.
It is true. It is true, however, that in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, Indiana Jones does absolutely nothing that changes the course of the Nazis' plan.
That's
now, admittedly, the Nazis are not in that movie.
We're not having this question. But I gotta tell you, I was like, people put, did you know that Anson Mount was not the first actor to play Captain Pike?
Oh,
really?
It's like, who are you? Why are you putting that on our? Just people say this. Don't they understand? We're the experts, okay? We know shit. I don't want to hear your amateurish observations about Star Trek.
Did you know that he's actually the third actor to play Captain Pike?
Fourth, actually.
You might not be the Jonesperts, though.
Sean Kenny.
Oh, I think Darren
three.
is the Jonespert.
That's three.
But then Bruce Greenwood.
Darren knows a lot about
I don't
Dr.
count those
Jones.
movies.
I can't believe.
By the way, you totally missed his Charlie's Indiana Jones poster.
No, I totally saw it.
No, I saw it. It's great. That
yeah.
Indiana Jones and the Temple of Posters.
Yeah,
yeah.
It's my New York subway poster.
Awesome. Nice.
That's so cool. That's so cool. I just wish the movie stopped after Temple of Doom. I'd be happy. 2 movies. It would be a duology. The Indiana Jones duology.
At least the third one is better than the fourth one.
That's not saying much. I mean, look, the third one at least has a couple of scenes that are fun.
Yeah.
So, and it has
It's just
that
ludicrous.
cool little, cold teaser. So pre-title sequence. Anyway, let's go. Enough with this talking. So,
screw this show. Let's get out of here.
I want to thank you. Look, thank you, Charlie. Thank you, Ashley. Thank you, Darren. And I think let's take our drinks to go. All the appetizers are gone. It's time to leave Deck 78. Let's call a turbo lift and fire the rockets.
Deck 78 is an exclusive podcast from Decksperts Plus.